I have been waiting all year to do a discussion on this movie, but I wanted to wait till today because today marks the 50th anniversary of this film. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. And today on Blast from the Past, we are discussing the 1974 cult classic Death Wish.
We want you to get out of New York permanently.
So Death Wish, the movie, is loosely based off the novel of the same name that was written in 1972 by Brian Garfield. Now, this movie was the start of the vigilante genre. Any other vigilante movie out there, probably Death Wish is the core of those movies. Now, yes, stories will be changed here and there will be different things going on. But in its core, it will always be Death Wish. There will always be that vigilantism that we saw in Death Wish as the core of other vigilante movies. The movie follows middle-aged architect Paul Kersey, who is played by American icon Charles Bronson. He lives in Manhattan with his wife and daughter, and during one day while he is working, his wife and daughter are victims of a home invasion. As the end result, his wife ends up being killed and his daughter ends up being molested so badly that she ends up traumatized into a catatonic state. When he finds out that the cops, cannot assure him that he will get justice for what happened to his family, he resorts to vigilantism, going out and killing muggers. And the way he does it, he pretends to be like this helpless man that, doesn't know what's going on or is just going about his day, and allows muggers to attack him so that he can kill them. This is pretty much the story in a nutshell, and I'm pretty much sure about 85% of people who have seen Death Wish know this story. But the real question behind Death Wish is to ask, what would you do? If you were this character, and what would you do if this situation happened to you? Would you resort to the same tactics that Paul Kersey does? I mean, that's a big question. I mean, I'm sure there are some out there who will say yes. There's some people who will say no. But when the time of this movie was filmed, it was actually that very question that got it panned so badly, because during the 70s, there was a good bit of crime. And believing that this film would inspire vigilantism is why it was panned by some critics, saying that it was too dark for its time. But now it's considered a cult classic and loved by many Americans. I personally love the dark tone of this film. I mean, I like the fact that they didn't turn Charles Bronson's character into like some kind of guy who's trying to be a hero, or he's a villain out seeking revenge for his family. I like that they have, mixed emotions about him. There are some people who think that he is doing a good thing. There are some people who think he's doing a bad thing. Because really, that's really up to the audience themselves as to what he's doing is good or bad. I mean, he's still just this average, ordinary guy, even after the loss he has suffered. And I mean, if it was about being a hero, then he would, be just doing this to, protect people or taking them to the cops. And if this was about revenge, he would probably be going after just specifically the people who took his family from him. But I mean, it's not like that at all. I mean, how you feel about this character as to whether he's good or bad, that's really just up to you as to whether the audience thinks that what he's doing is good or bad. And that's something I really like about this movie. It really makes you think, and really, depending on how you feel about his character, really can tell you whether you feel that this is a good movie or a bad movie. At the time when this movie was made, Charles Bronson was actually 52 years old, mainly being known for a movie at The Great Escape. When Death Wish came out, this solidified his career over the next 20 years and got him many roles. Many of them, of course, were action flicks. Also, at the time, this would also create the Death Wish film series. The ones that he was in went all the way up to, I believe, the early 90s. But the Death Wish film series never really lived up to the expectations as the first film. The first 2 and 3 were okay, but 4 and 5 were just pretty much, ridiculous. But that's still not to say that Charles Bronson would also be in many other great films as well. His career after Death Wish really excelled in the action genre. There were many films that he was in that were great films. Charles Bronson isn't the only one to be remembered from this film. This was also the first acting appearance of another American icon, and that would be Jeff Goldblum. He plays one of the muggers who assaults Charles Bronson's family. He's only there for maybe a few minutes, but this was his first ever acting appearance. Of course, after this movie, he would get many small roles until 1983, when he gets his breakout role, and that would be in the movie Big Chill. And any fan of Jeff Goldblum's knows that after that movie, the rest is history, and knows what kind of career he would have and what big movies he would later be in. But it all started with Death Wish being his first role. So you can say that not only did it solidify Charles Bronson's career, it also was the start of Jeff Goldblum's career as well. As I said, also, this movie impacted the film industry and basically gave us the vigilante genre. Now, yes, there weren't a lot of movies in the 70s and 80s that followed Death Wish that really gave us that same zest, but a lot of actually the good vigilante films that I can think of along with this movie actually came out in the 90s and early 2000s. Here's just some of them right here. And in their core definitely is Death Wish. Now, yes, all their stories are a little bit different and have their own zest, but without Death Wish, we probably wouldn't have a lot of movies like this, or even the directors who inspired to make movies like this. If you guys haven't seen Death Wish, it's definitely one I highly recommend. Even after this movie reaches its 75th or 100th year anniversary, it's one of those movies that's never going to be forgotten. Because when it comes to the vigilante genre, no matter how many great vigilante movies we get, people will always remember that Death Wish was the first one to come out.